Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm smoking crack. Just fucking with you, toasters and moshers. I'm Charles, I'm smoking weed, and this is Riffs and Spliffs. A hearty welcome back to all you toasters and moshers, and thank you for listening today. And boy, do I have a really fun one for you today. I actually got a twofer, and we'll get into that very shortly. First and foremost, we will be getting into a little strain called Ice Cream Cake for our cannabis education section. As we continue to chief our way through this week's episode, we're going to find that we will be covering the sporadic outfits, Ed Gein, and Shadow Snakes. And you might be wondering why I'm giving you guys a twofer today, and let me tell you, when I was doing some research originally on Ed Gein, who was going to be the spotlight artist, turns out that Shadow Snakes is just a new reincarnation, and I will give you all the details about that as we continue forward. But let's get packing on this Ice Cream Cake.
Shall we?
Ice Cream Cake is a very well-known strain and a cult classic as far as my opinion is concerned. Now, research was pulling me in a couple different ways when it came to the origins as far as who first bred and cultivated this strain. Ultimately, I'm going to say the majority shows that it was a company by the name of Seed Junkie Genetics. And then when I was looking a little further, I stumbled upon a site called WikiLeaf. Although, just for your information out there, toasters and moshers, not really the best site to use or to look to when trying to get information on a strain or just looking for this kind of information in general. Don't do it. WikiLeaf is a no-go. Essentially, WikiLeaf, though, said that Mad Scientist Genetics was the original breeder and cultivator of this strain. But like I said, for this specific podcast episode, we are going to go with the Seed Junkie Genetics, and we'll get into that when we get to the breakdown. I'll go on record to say, just for your guys' little tidbit of information, the cross breeding for Mad Science Genetics strain consisted of cheesecake, and they took that and crossed it with a strain called Dream Cookie. As far as my local cultivator, that is going to be by a company called Cresco and or High Supply. Not sure how easy or hard it is to find Ice Cream Cake around your areas, wherever you are listening from. Around here, it seems to be around for the most time pretty often. I can usually see it when I'm looking at my menus at most of the dispensaries around the area. But this was the first time I decided to pick it up from a local cultivator. I believe I had it when I was staying in Michigan a few years ago, and that was probably my second time having it, and the first time I had it was out in Denver. I did once have Ice Cream Cake in the form of a cart by a company named Aries from out here in my area, and it's surprising because Aries usually puts out pretty good flower and pretty good product in general, but this cart was really leaky, and I pretty much had to throw most of the cart away because it just, after trying to hit it for a couple days, it just eventually started leaking out in its container, and that if I let it sit in my pen at the time, it was not a good time.
You French fry when you pizza, you're gonna have a bad time.
Ice Cream Cake we see is an indica dominant hybrid, looking at about a 75-25 split, but I will say for me personally, when I smoke this strain, I get about an 80-20% feeling, so about 5% more on the indica side. It helps me a lot with my sleepies at night. Looking at the terpene profile for Ice Cream Cake, we can see most commonly found terpenes are going to be caryophyllene, giving us that peppery scent and taste profile. We're going to see limonene coming in second with the citrus and fruity. And last but not least, some more myrcene with earthy and musky. I will say, if you guys out there who are listening haven't really noticed by now, most of these strains, and most strains in general, if you do some research on it, for the most part have caryophyllene and myrcene somewhere within the top two terpenes, if not the top five in general. And then you'll have that third one varying between linalool, limonene, terpinolene, and so forth. Expect to always see pretty much caryophyllene and myrcene in most strains. When looking around for a THC average for ice cream cake, I found that it is going to be 20 to 25%, and that came straight from Cresco's website. When looking at my personal stash, I can see THCA coming in at about 21.76%, so a little on the lower side of that average range. And then I have just regular THC coming in at 0.75%. No surprise here, no CBD content. What to expect as far as a flavor and scent profile on ice cream cake? You can expect some slight vanilla and sweet and some light citrus. And I would have to agree with that, especially on the inhale. I really taste that slight vanilla and the more sweet side of it. Actually, for me personally, I don't really get much citrus on the exhale. I tend to get more of that musky, earthy. And you can really actually, as far as the smell of ice cream cake, you kind of get more of the musky and earthy, so I feel like the myrcene's very prominent when it comes to the makeup of this terpene profile. Most common effects attached to ice cream cake are going to be relaxed, I put in parentheses couch lock, depending on how much of this strain you actually smoke in a sitting. Calmed and euphoric as well, and I have in parentheses after euphoric, happy. In the way of medicinally, you can expect to use this strain to get some anxiety and depression relief, hence that euphoric and the happy coming in. You can expect some pain management, and that comes off of that caryophyllene and a bit of the myrcene. And insomnia, as I had mentioned, it definitely helps mine, and that's going to be the myrcene that comes in there. Definitely a good one. Get it, guys, if you're having trouble sleeping. I guarantee it. We have arrived now to our lineage breakdown. If we take our Italian grinders, toasters, and moshers, and we pick this strain apart, we are going to see that this is made up of two other cult classic strains as far as I'm concerned, and those are going to be wedding cake, and we're going to cross that with gelato number 33. Breaking the nugs down a little bit further and looking into the wedding cake lineage, apparently this is also deemed triangle mints number 23, and this is a cross of triangle kush and animal mints. Two very heavy-hitting strains on their own, I will say. Grinding up the gelato 33 lineage here, we're going to see that that is a cross between Sunset Sherbet and Girl Scout Cookies, the Thin Mint cut. Just a quick shout out Girl Scout Cookies for being the first strain that I was able to identify with and get the name of, and it was the first real strain that I could say I loved because I knew what I was smoking, I knew how it felt, and I knew that I wanted to smoke that strain more as I gotten older. And that was when I was probably about 16, 17 in high school, so quite a while ago. All in all, not too shabby of a lineage breakdown, kind of sweet and to the point, you know what I'm saying, toasters and moshers, but that leaves us more than enough time to talk about our next segment, and we are looking at chaotic grindcore, spastic, out-of-this-world bands Ed Gein and Shadow Snakes. Why am I giving you guys a twofer on this Monday? Well, here's the reason. Pretty much straight and to the point. Ed Gein, after their third album, which came out in 2011, they had pretty much what seemed like disappeared, and everybody thought they had broken up anyway, but turns out they technically didn't, and they came back in 2018 to announce that. But pretty much at that get-go, they also announced that they were coming out with a new reincarnation with the three members, and we're going to get more into that as we talk. Ed Gein was first founded and came on the scene in 2001 out of Syracuse, New York. As stated, they are no longer a currently operating band, at least not as Ed Gein. and they disbanded in 2018 after being on hiatus for 6 years or so. And now I want to pull up the breakup post for you guys just because I think it was very interesting how they went about it. I think it was very constructive, and here you go, I'm going to read this message for you. So it's a bit lengthy, just hold on with me here, Toasters and Moshers. I'll try to get through it as quick as I can without fucking anything up. So they go, Ed Gein is done. Time passes, things end, new things begin. In my mind, Ed Gein is a band of kids in their early 20s who practice for hours every single night of the week and have endless energy. That hasn't been us for a long time. The reality that time marches on. Personalities evolve. Interests change, attitudes change, responsibilities accumulate, goals change. If you'd asked 20-year-old me what I thought I'd be doing when I was 36, I'd probably have said something like, I don't know, dead. I certainly wouldn't have said I'd be married and built my own business. The reality is that to us, and maybe to some of you, Ed Gein hasn't felt like Ed Gein for a while. It's good to know when to let things go. Have we dragged it along too long already? Maybe. Sometimes it feels that way. I'm sure some of you are thinking, wait, Ed Gein didn't break up a long time ago? Nope. And the specter of Ed Gein has definitely been looming over us. It's time to salt the corpse and light it on fire to start anew. This is not a bad ending. This is not an angry divorce. This is a new chapter. Jesse, Graham, and I are continuing on in new form. We wanted to try things differently to better fit our changed lives. We aren't those 20-something-year-olds that practice nonstop and couldn't wait to get back in the van. Those guys are dead. In their place are 3 guys who are closer to 40 than 20 with different priorities. Time to let those 20-something-year-olds go. So we've made changes, and those changes felt like a new band. It felt right to start fresh and let Ed Gein die. We added a second guitar player in the form of our friend Mike Hariff, formerly of Rust Empire, and a vocalist in the form of our friend Steve Sindoni, formerly of Breather, Resist, and Punisher. Old friends, new perspective, new ideas. It feels good. This new band is not Ed Gein, it's an evolution. This new band is Shadow Snakes. So thank you for hanging in there, guys, on that. I tried to get through it with as many, or at least many, fuck-ups as I could. Like I said, a bit lengthy. I just felt it was warranted, though, so you get a little bit of taste of... That's the point of this podcast, huh? For me to inform, so you get, you can know about these bands and get intimate with them and connect with their music. Looking at a genre for each of these bands, Ed Gein can be considered a grindcore / hardcore punk outfit with a little bit of slight noise influence, and then for Shadow Snakes, pretty much just a straightforward hardcore punk, with maybe a little influence of grind still. So the lineup, guys, like I said, throughout the band, this is probably the easiest lineup section I've ever had to do thus far. No lineup changes. Ed Gein was always the same 3 dudes. We see Graham Reynolds, he was vocals and guitar. Aaron Jenkins, he was bass and vocals. And Jesse Dano on drums and vocals. So they all did vocals as well. And then, as I had mentioned, reading through the post that Ed Gein had posted about their disbandment in the form of their new band, they essentially, the 3 guys, and then they just added their friend Mike Hariff as a second guitar from Rust Empire, and then Steve on vocals as from Breather Resist, and Punisher. My bad, guys.
Philanthropist?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It gets blocked up in my mouth. I don't say it no good. So.
Unfortunately, I don't really have anything crazy or super interesting as far as an origin story for Ed Gein. They kind of it was 3 kids in their late teens, early 20s who wanted to get together and play really angry music, and that was about it. Ed Gein's first release, though, we can see as a self-titled EP, and that was released in 2002. As far as their new band Shadow Snakes, their first release was self-titled as well in 2018, although their first release was a full LP, and Ed Gein's was just an EP. When looking at a discography overall between the two, we're not going to see too much. There's fully about 6 releases, 5-6 releases, 3 from Ed Gein, and then 2 from Shadow Snakes. Starting with Ed Gein, we can see their first release being that Ed Gein EP in 2002. Shortly after, and just a year later, 2003, we see their first full-length entitled It's a Shame That a Family Can Be Torn Apart by Something as Simple as a Pack of Wild Dogs. Second, and what seems to be the album that kind of helped them get into the mainstream as far as this kind of music, if there is a mainstream, and more so get a bit more recognized, was their third and second LP release, Judas Goats and Diesel Eaters, and that came out 2 years later in 2005. From here, we actually see a big break in the timing of when their third and final album, Bad Luck, comes out. That ended up dropping in 2011, 6 years later, so we could see that maybe a foreshadowing of kind of the band taking that time off even after that and then coming back years later to announce their new band. I don't know, just a bit of speculation. I ain't no wizard. I can't see the future or the past. I don't know. Hindsight, 2020. Going from there and slipping into Shadow Snakes. Again, their first release being in 2018, pretty much straight out of the gate. They dropped that when they announced the official breakup of Ed Gein. Again, 2018 for that first one. And then only a year later, they dropped a small EP entitled Bad at Parties, 2019. So essentially, guys, the way I'm going to go about this discography breakdown and the analysis, I'm going to do it how I normally would do, just kind of go through Ed Gein's 3, Shadow Snakes, and I'm going to kind of talk about the 2 of them and just in a general whole and kind of compare them. But yeah, about the same, just with a little twist. Coming out of the gate with that self-titled EP, nothing crazy. I will say, sounds like especially for 2002, how great could, studio quality be, especially for DIY bands back in the day and technology not being what it was. But you can hear it all. But ultimately, it just kind of sounds, the production kind of reminds me of standard old metalcore like that, even though it wasn't metalcore. It had that, at the time, metalcore. It reminds me even almost of a project that I had, which I wish I still had access to the couple music files that we had on MySpace. We had kind of the same similar production. We were kind of a experimental metalcore-ish deathcore band before that shit was kind of around, and it was interesting. But yeah, their first EP is nothing crazy, just standard grindcore, with a lot of noise going on. Production's nothing that great. It does have a lot of cool riffs going on. The first album first song, I should say, in itself, Bathed in Orange, kind of has some cool stuff going on. I'll give you guys a little taste of it here.
Killer! Killer! Killer!
So that's pretty cool. Like I said, it's not terrible. I really still like it because I enjoy stuff like this more so than a lot of heavier music, just because I love the chaotic intentions behind it and blah, blah, blah. You guys get it. Not too much, just again to say. I'm not going to really include this evening in my ranking. I'm just going to, when it comes to the analysis and the ranking, once I go through it, this would just be the bottom if I had to put it there. But yeah, self-titled, nothing crazy. Bottom of the chain. First, in this analysis, I'm going to put their second album, Judas Goats and Diesel Eaters. And when I first discovered this band, I didn't really care for that album. I pretty much only listened to It's a Shame, and then when Bad Luck ended up coming out, I listened to Bad Luck because I kind of noticed, these guys went somewhere. I guess they got new music, so I kind of picked up back with them. After going back this past week and really listening to these albums again, Judas Goats and Diesel Eaters, I just feel was the perfect middle ground. You hear a lot of what was still on that first album, It's a Shame, and even a little bit of that first self-titled EP, but then they have songs where you can hear the influence coming in of the hardcore punk that will eventually be seen 6 years later on Bad Luck. One song I actually found super interesting on this album, and it actually doesn't have any lyrics, is a song called United 93. Not too sure what that has to do with anything. Maybe I could try finding something and putting it in the show notes or post when I post these episodes. Who knows? I'll try to maybe look into that for you guys and get a little bit more detail. I'm going to throw a little bit of a clip of that song for you guys just because there's a weird time signature going on and I've been trying to figure it out. I haven't been able to. Hopefully I can sit down and really try to pinpoint it. You can hear the really chunky tones that they have. And overall, I will say really the only negative thing I have to say about this album was the production, which at first, that's really kind of what turned me off to begin with, even back, I think, when this album came out. And then when I tried listening to it again for this analyzing, now that I listen to it more and I really listen to the guitar tones, although it's not the best between the 3 albums, it fits the guitar tones and it fits what they're trying to do and the sound of all the instruments at the time. Just the way they were set up in tune, the drums, bass, if that makes sense. That's just how I feel. Ultimately, though, because of the writing, yeah, I'm going on here. Here's a clip of United 93. See what I mean, though? That really off-kilter, off-time signature thing they got going. And that's kind of also a little bit of a prelude to, I feel, the Bad Luck album that's coming, because it's a bit more of that hardcore punky, nothing really grindy or fast, just kind of chugging away, and more heavy, makes you want to mosh. But then you have songs on here like Bastard, Christian as a Foreign Policy, and just for the funnies, I'm going to give you guys a little clip of a song on this album called Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens. Who doesn't love a little Pee Wee Herman? Know what I'm saying? Haha.
You're saying you can't do anything.
Baby, how are you ever gonna pay a reward like that, huh?
It's simple. Whoever returns the bike is obviously the person who stole it, so they don't deserve any reward.
All in all, number one for sure. Other than that production value, just it has all the writing. I feel like they were at a good middle ground, and they just, even though they aren't what they used to be from what they say in their posts, I understand that, but I just think they really, that was the peak of their writing, and if they would have kept that nice blend, even Bad Luck would have been perfect. Either way, Judas Goats and Diesel Eaters, number one. Now, I might seem crazy to anybody who is a fan of this band, and maybe you agree, maybe not. I am actually even going to say, coming in at 2, I'm going to put their first album, It's a Shame. Reason being, even though the production on Bad Luck is very crisp and very, very professional sounding, it's very fine-tuned, and nothing crazy bad out of the ordinary, I think It's a Shame has so many... I just think that the songs are more captivating. I love that it's so short and punchy and to the point for the most part. It's not a very long LP by any means. It's only 8 songs and let me look this up for you guys. 26 minutes, 11 seconds. So nothing crazy. All the tracks on this are bangers. You know, Nice Shoes Wanna Fuck was probably one of the first tracks I ever heard. I'll give you guys a little tidbit of that right here. Yeah, I know the name's a little bit quirky, but what are you going to do? It's a grindcore band. Kawaii. Okay, guys, I'm really high right now, and I kind of got distracted by this album and just kind of clicking around because it's so short, and I just wanted to refresh a couple riffs because I'm pretty high, and I stumbled upon something fucking crazy. And I was listening to this album a couple days ago, and I thought I was hearing or like mishearing, but it turns out there's a song, the second song on It's a Shame is a song called The Marlboro Man is a Douchebag, and the last song on the album is a song called What Is This Monstrosity. The fucking riff that plays out and fades out at the end of The Marlboro Man is a Douchebag is the same fucking riff that fades in at the beginning of What Is This Monstrosity. I'm going to do my best to try to show you guys this fade and do the 2 clips back to back, like the ending fading out and then the ending fading in, or the beginning fading into What Is This Monstrosity. If I can't, I apologize, but I'm going to do my best. other than that, I don't know how much more I could say about their first album and the reasons I choose it as being second overall. Just again, I love that short, punchy to the point. You get a lot going on in a very short amount of time, and for people who kind of dig more the technical side of grind and very spastic. Drum work on this is crazy, stacks up just as well as the guitar and the bass. All three of these guys doing vocals, it's great. It blends very well together, and on this album, they really come out with a fucking bang for a first full-length release, that is. That leaves the final pick of the crop and number 3 in this analysis, Bad Luck. Again, not that Bad Luck is a bad album. I do like the production a lot. I like that it's a bit more forward, very more clear sounding. And that's one thing and why I chose It's a Shame second, because even though it's not better quality and better production than Bad Luck, it was better than Judas, their second album for sure. So that's why I squeezed it in there. Going back, Bad Luck, definitely a good album. It has good songs like She Creeps, Bullet Dodger, The Wraith, and Wage Slave. I really love. Actually, I'm going to play you guys a little bit of Wage Slave right here. Love that hardcore punk. And, you know, this album, I just feel the reason I kind of put it down there is a lot of these songs kind of just sound the same for the most part. A lot of the same kind of triplets on the guitar, you know, quick, you know, I don't know. I can't do it with my mouth. I'll give you a little clip actually right here from, I believe it's Bullet Dodger. Here, take a listen. So that's what I'm talking about, that kind of stuff. Ultimately, I just feel it wasn't as inventive, very mature, obviously. Their vocals, I think, are the best on this album. I love how more of a yelling they do. Not that I don't love that screechy grindcore stuff. It's fucking fantastic. A big reason why I love that first album. This album, I really think it just, that vocal, the tonal yelling that they all can do, and the minor really kind of screaming they do really fits and shows the maturity of the dudes and their vocals. Ultimately, it kind of was a cookie cutter album for that. I can't put it past the other two. Fight Me. As we are going to go into the second installment, the new form of Ed Gein's Shadow Snakes, I'm not going to really expand too much. Honestly, the first thing they released right at that time, Shadow Snakes, that self-titled production, was kind of muffly, kind of compressed sounding, and kind of sounded muddy. If I didn't just say that, again, I'm high. I don't fucking know. The production wasn't that great, and honestly, even though they said they were trying to like start something new and they even brought in a new guitarist, a lot of the album kind of sounds just almost like a slightly different variation of Ed Gein's Bad Luck. A little bit harsher guitar tones, a little more amped up production in the sense of the volume. It seems just kind of the compressions in your face. I'll give you guys a little clip of their song, A Strange and Selfish Gratitude, right here, so you can get a little taste. It was the See what I'm talking about with the guitar tones even? Very fuzzy even almost, like they have a fuzz pedal going. I don't know. Ultimately, it's interesting. I'll definitely put it in my playlist that I have. That houses just all my fucking shit that I listen to. If you guys are even interested in that, let me know. I could link that. It has almost 6,000 songs, over 400 hours almost of music. Anything and everything you could imagine. Let me know. Either way, yeah, nothing crazy to say about these guys. Even the newer thing they had released a year later, Bad at Parties, it was a bit more mature here, and I felt like it was a bit better of an effort that they put forth. Give you a little clip of the song Stay Home off of that EP. Ultimately, though, like I said, it's kind of just straightforward. Still kind of that hardcore punk influence with maybe a little bit of a twist on it. Nothing crazy. I like it at the end of the day, and I will continue to listen to them for sure. Last little tidbit I want to give you guys about Ed Gein and even Shadow Snakes. If you listen to their lyric content, you will see that they are very well driven in the sense of racism in the U.S., sexism, homophobia, and bureaucracy even. And to give you a little taste of that, I'll kind of just spit off a bit of the lyrics for their song Wage Slave from Bad Trip. They say, "This song gets in my head, wears me down, wears me out. I dream of this shit. I've had enough. Box, set, stack, repeat. Paper cuts and sore feet." And then one other line in the song that they all kind of chant together is, "From 9 to 5, you'll slowly die, and the American dream will suck you dry." And don't we all know that is the truth, toasters and moshers? Either way, that's going to do it for this music appreciation section on Ed Gein and Shadow Snakes. And now that we have finished toking down on our spliffs, toasters, and moshers, I'm going to bounce into some riffs of the week for you. First riff of the week I got for you guys is actually from that one song I mentioned with the fading out intro. Well, my bad, fading out of the song itself is "The Marlboro Man is a Douchebag." Second riff of the week, and the last one I have for you guys here, is from their song "The Wool is Pulled," and that is going to be off that second release, Judas Ghosts and Diesel Eaters. Very chaotic and heavy band indeed, toasters and moshers, and if you like what you are hearing here on the podcast today, please go look into this band further. They deserve the attention. Even their new band, Shadow Snakes, give them some love. I know they got some merch and stuff. I'm not here to advocate for that, but I'm just saying they got stuff if you like wearing shit. You do you. Considering we are all toasty and cozy, let's head on out to our Chill 'em Out section. In today's Chill 'em Out, I have picked a fan favorite of mine for you guys, and that is going to be a song entitled Dizzy, and that is by the punk shoegaze band Title Fight. This is going to be from their third and final RIP release, Hyperview, and that came out in 2015. What do you think, toasters and moshers? Definitely one that I find myself token to quite often. As we round out this week's episode, I want to say, as always, thank you, toasters and moshers who are out there listening. If you want to be sure to check the show notes in the description below, I'll make sure to link you up to all my social media where you can keep up with all the happenings here at the Riffs and Spliffs podcast. As always, stay toasty, my friends.